started. I'm going to mute us.
Yeah, that was.
All right, good evening, everyone. Welcome to our Monday night board meeting. I'm going to start this meeting off by standing for the pledge. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good evening, everyone. Sorry about the late, a couple minutes late start. Our parking lot was quite full with sporting activities tonight, so thank you so much. I'm going to start the meeting off with any citizens that would like to address the board. This is the first option for citizen comments. This first portion is agenda items only. You'll have 3 minutes once you come to the podium. If it's not about anything on the agenda, then you will have a second time at the end of the meeting to address anything to the board. Do we have any citizens that would like to address the board? All right, seeing none, we will move on to celebrations. Adam.
Good evening. A couple notes on stories that have been posted on the website. The first is last week, Anthony Rapito, who's a nationally renowned mental health speaker and magician, presented to all of our students at the high school and middle school. He does a really nice job of connecting with our students and using magic as a vehicle, kind of entertainment type piece to keep the kids' attention, but then also has a very powerful story to tell and some very positive remarks that he was able to relay to our students. This is put together by Kate Wilcox, who's a social worker at our high school, also the Be Nice faculty advisor there, and that was a really nice connection with that initiative. I know we've talked about it already, but homecoming was a big success this year. I was able to get the story up on the website, and a variety of photos from the different activities that the students were able to participate in during our homecoming week, which had just amazing weather. We got really lucky this year, but it was a perfect week for that celebration. Some items not pictured on the website currently. 5th grade camp was another success. Unlike homecoming, it rained most of the days, which is a 5th grade tradition, camp tradition. And nevertheless, though, that is just part of the experience. The kids had a great time. And in particular, I'd like to thank Rotary for a very generous donation that helped keep the cost of the camp down for all involved, as that the price, the reserve camp lobby has gone up over the last number of years. However, they've also added a lot of nice upgrades to the facility. There's wise staff there to help with some of the activities like canoeing, which is in its second year, and the kids love it. So costs are up, but the kids still just had a great time. And appreciative of all of our parent volunteers and of course our 5th grade teachers for organizing that event. A few athletic items. Our boys tennis team is now ranked number 7 in the state. And football, after an outstanding win on Friday night, they are also ranked 7th in the state. And our middle school boys cross country team won the Division I, Division II regional meet over the weekend, and our middle school girls came in 3rd. So that bodes well for the future of our high school cross country team. So congratulations to those students, their parents, and coaches. Those are celebrations for this evening. Any questions?
Any questions, Madam? Yeah, inevitably it will rain. It was raining. I'm sure that it does. But at least it was warm and it rained. All right, moving on to educational update. So just as a reminder, the board will be hearing from Adam tonight on board goal number 5. He will be coming to the board for the next few meetings to talk to us. This goes directly to his evaluation, and so it's really important not only to listen to him, but to follow up if you have any questions regarding any information that you give.
So, like I said last time on the summaries of the board goals, there really shouldn't be anything that's a surprise to you. It should be things that you've been seeing updates constantly on throughout the year. Board goal 5 is the process of standardizing our student reporting system or grading system across the district by building. As you can see in the memo that was prepared, every school, including our preschool program, continues to refine and incorporate into their professional development program their standardized grading practices. The high school, as we all know, has leaned into this a little bit more over the last couple of years. And so in the memo, I outlined some of the accomplishments and the items that are still being worked on. I also provided you, and you've seen all these before, but a pack that includes all the professional development sessions that the high school has had over the past calendar year, indicating the time and effort that they've put into focusing on developing their standardized grading system. I will say that that is complex work. It takes a lot of reading, a lot of research, a lot of collaboration, and I think that's what I've appreciated about the way the high school's done this, is they've gone about it in a very deliberative and a very collaborative fashion, soliciting feedback from their professional staff and trying to seek the best way forward that works for our teachers as well as our students. So that is a summary of board goal 5. Like I said, hopefully nothing new, but I'd be happy to entertain any questions you have in terms of how that has developed over the past year.
I know in the memorandum that was sent in January by Mr. Delp that no more extra credit starting in the 2nd semester. Is everybody on board with that, or, I mean? Well, I mean, they still have some time, so, but I mean, did we have still from the 1st semester, or did people just decide not to do it first semester, or are they coming back?
So for this year, they've taken that out of the syllabi across the school, but what that's done is it's kind of forced this focus on retakes, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so the key point of all this that we really want to focus on is student learning. We want them to make sure they're mastering the content standard and demonstrating through a variety of means that they've done that. Extra credit by itself doesn't really do that, right? What we're looking at is possible reteaching, relearning, effort by the students to indicate they put in the effort to go back to their teacher and say, okay, now that I've got this, let's go back together again and let me show you, however that looks. So that is why the extra credit piece has really led to retakes being the next item that they focused on and continue to work on. A lot of time spent in departments kind of working through to see what works best for those departments and what would be the best way to go about that, again, in a standardized way.
Thank you.
So you're referring to maybe like the teacher availability as far as for after school for retakes or other parts of the day?
Yeah, well, I think one of the teacher availability is part of it, and the other piece is how do teachers, using their time effectively and efficiently develop retakes for their summative assessments. There's a multitude of ways to do that. but now they're working on kind of putting those together, which is a lot of work, right? Especially, many of our teachers at the high school have offered retakes over the years, but even for those that have, they're kind of going back into their summative assessments now and retooling those or coming up with other ways that students can show their understanding. So it doesn't always have to be, well, here's test A and then do test B of the same content, right? There's other ways to show that you've mastered that. And so those are the things they're working through as departments, because what might work in math might not work in English language arts, or it might not work in Spanish. So they have kind of pushed some of that legwork down to the departments, and they're trying to figure out what works best for them to give students those opportunities.
Any other questions? Okay, well, if you do have them throughout the next couple weeks, I urge you to talk with Adam to get those questions answered. And then, still Adam, superintendent report.
Yeah, so just a few items. At our next regular meeting in October, provide a summary of board goal number 3, which is marketing and communication. And then on November 6th, our November meeting, our auditors will be in to present the annual audit results. That will focus on board goal number 2. And then Dr. Cook will be presenting our academic achievement and growth data from the past year, focusing on board goal number 1. I've also included in your packet, again, nothing that you haven't seen before, but the superintendent evaluation process and timeline. It's the same as last year. Just for your situational awareness, there is a Senate bill that has some links to it that's going to reshape the state evaluation system. That would include from the superintendent on down, all folks involved in education in the state. So that won't be in effect for this year, but it does look likely that some form of that will pass, and so that might actually cause us to have to retool this process moving forward. But for this year, the same as what you've seen in the past, and the timeline is included in that, so you can follow along with that. And then finally, just a reminder that the board goals that are aligned with the evaluation will reset in January. There's a board goals workshop already scheduled with MESB in January, and that'll provide the board the opportunity to revisit the goals they currently have and then decide on what next steps, if any, you'd like to put in place for the next 3 years. Any questions? That's superintendent's update for tonight.
Chris, do you have anything to add to the evaluation process?
Yeah, so just as a reminder, as always, after our November 6th meeting, I will be sending out to everybody the documents that you'll need to be able to evaluate Dr. Spina for our next process. I will give you about a week and a half or so, and right after Thanksgiving, you'll need to have that in so that we have, I can tally everything and have it back ready for our meeting in December. So just keep that in mind as you look at your calendars, just to set aside some time to be able to do that.
Any questions either for Adam or Chris about the
One other thing, and this is actually for Betsy. Betsy, I'm going to email you, but we do have that last piece on the communication piece that we need to do for the staff.
Anything else? Okay, moving on to board committee reports. Board policy committee met in September. Feels like so long ago.
It does feel long. Did kind of a two-part meeting when we met in September. The first part, we discussed housing availability within the district. You should have within your packet a printout with a lot of different statistics on just the different issues with availability. A couple quick ones: 22% of Williamston students are school choice or non-residents. That's a huge, huge portion, almost a quarter. And only roughly 39% of the professional staff live within the district boundaries, so getting housing here is extremely challenging. Adam invited John Hannafin and Wanda Bloomquist in from the city and the township to discuss those. And we went through some of the trouble points that they're facing and the different tactics that they're trying to address the issues. And ultimately, I think what we'd like to do is move forward with potentially writing a statement as a board urging additional action to be taken. Adam, anything to add on that? In addition, we had two non-policy items we discussed: school cell phone policies, where we went through what each of the districts or what each of the schools are doing, as well as reviewing the student success cards for the Cattle Library. Ultimately, we've decided to move forward with what we have with the library success card, so not expanding that in any way. And then the rest are in your board packet, mostly around selection of architect and construction. And we did a lot of cleaning up and rolling policies that are redundant into the rewritten ones from
Any questions for Dave or any policy related members?
Can you tell me a little bit more about the parent notification tools that you guys didn't think were in place?
Can you say that again? I'm sorry.
Can you tell me a little bit more about the parent notification tools that you don't think are in place yet for the library card?
Yeah, so the library cards that we have now allow students to check out physical media, but they don't allow them to check out any digital media. And the pushback there was that it would allow them to do things like check out R-rated movies, and there'd be no notification systems for parents. So that was one of the reasons that we didn't want to move forward with that originally, and one of our requests was some sort of notification system, a text message, a push notification to let parents know that these activities had taken place. And unfortunately, that's not possible at this time with the system that they have. So with that in mind, we're going to move forward as we've been doing with no digital part of the policy.
Thank you.
I just want to say that I appreciate the city manager and the township supervisor coming to our meeting to shed light on their perspective of the housing market, because obviously we're living in from the district standpoint and sometimes as residents as well. But I appreciate them coming and having an open conversation with us, and hopefully that conversation continues. So thank you, Adam, for saying that.
They were very generous with their time.
Yeah, they were.
Can you give any high-level overview of what they specifically said were their challenges?
Well, I mean, the city manager basically said he's new to the job and he was gonna tackle it, but he also sees that as, like, when he came, like, why there wasn't more building, and it was just kind of more dormant. So he was possibly looking at, like, the industrial sites to see why some of them haven't moved, if the zoning may be up there by the highway with that site. He was kind of looking, Mrs. Boomquist basically said that they did cluster ordinances for Sherwood South, but nothing was Sherwood North, and at this point, she just assumed owners of land did not want to sell. We did ask her to look at their current zoning practices and talk with Home Builders Association to see if there was something specific within their policy or the things that they want to or currently implement that keeps builders or landowners from specifically selling and looking for developmental. I put a call into Home Builders Association to see if we could get some feedback from them, to see if local home builders have a reason why they don't want to come into Williamstown Township or some of the surroundings. So I'm just waiting for a call back. So it's kind of, I think, a high level.
Thank you. That's helpful.
Yeah, like I said, hopefully the conversation continues. We made sure that it's a priority from our standpoint as a district, so we will continue those conversations. Anything else? Okay, discussion items. There are a few. The first is the e-cigarette litigation settlement from Altria that is in your packets. As you know, that we entered this lawsuit and there is now a settlement.
Yeah, so the board has a resolution. Basically, our part of the settlement is pending the board's approval, which would take place at our second October meeting. If you were to approve the settlement, then I have some documents that I would sign on your behalf, and then that would kind of close the lawsuit that we've been party to regarding marketing vaping products towards children and adolescents. lawsuits.
Does that money have to be used specifically for vaping related?
So it does not have to, but in keeping with the intent of the lawsuit, and as we did when we successfully settled the lawsuit versus Juul, we have taken those funds and used them to install the vape detectors at the high school. The way it works out, and it, just the way it worked out with the settlement numbers, pretty much zeroes out the cost to the district for installing those, purchasing and installing those. So we did use the settlement funds, not for the required purpose, but I think what was the intent of the lawsuit. So.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Do we feel comfortable moving this to action at our next board meeting?
Yes.
Okay, we will move that to action at the next board meeting, and please get any additional questions or information from Adam as you need. The next item is Sex Education Advisory Board. The first is the application for Kyle Robinson to be appointed as advisor. Discussion around that. Do you have
So the board had previously appointed Adele Berg as the faculty representative to the Sex Ed Advisory Board. As we know, Adele resigned to take an administrative job in another district, and Kyle has started taking on her role, including teaching the health courses at the high school. He served on an advisory board in his previous district and is knowledgeable in terms of a lot of the things that that committee will end up discussing as they further their work. I think it's also helpful to have a faculty member that actually teaches the content as part of those discussions. If for no other reason, they can help answer, again, questions that the committee has or find them resources in terms of what we're already doing. That would be a benefit to that group as they move forward.
Makes sense.
any questions? Any reservations about moving that for next meeting?
No.
Okay, along with that, we did, Adam did reach out to the committee to see if there was interest in, having some co-chairs. And you'll see in the packet that there were some that said yes, some that said, I will, but if you need me, and then some that just said, I'm not quite ready to take on that role right now. So I would like a discussion around who we would like to appoint as co-chairs. It is the board's, in our policy, the board's discretion as to who would be the co-chairs for that committee. So is there anyone who would like to start the discussion?
Looking for the page. I read it.
So I sent this to you in a separate
There were three
Oh, that was separate.
communication.
Thank
Agreeable,
you.
yes.
The three members of the board who did not decline the option were Megan Holm, Katie Weingartz, and Angela Griffin. I did not speak with Kyle, but obviously not being formally appointed yet, that would be getting out ahead of ourselves. So those were the three that were present and did not say no.
Can you repeat those again?
Yes, it's Megan Holm, Katie Weingartz, and Angela Griffin. All three work in the medical field.
Yeah, can you give me a background again? Because
Yeah, they're all-
it's been many months since we
Yeah,
saw their
Yeah.
resumes.
Well, because you haven't had a chance to
Yeah.
interact with them face to face, it's kind of a unusual situation, but the board's policy does state that you need to appoint them. All three work in the medical field, all three have children in the district. Obviously, all three volunteered to be part of the committee and have,
Do you know what they do now?
not off the top of my head, I don't know if I could go through all, but they all work in areas that involve.
I was just trying to remember,
Yeah.
because, like I said, it's been many months since we saw their applications for the committee, and
I know Megan and Katie have, they volunteered to attend the Sex Ed Advisory Board training that's being put on by Eden Risa in November, and Angela is a MD
training, it puts them in a good position to be co-chairs.
Mhm. Yeah, I would agree with that.
They're all very qualified.
Any of those three.
I mean, I would agree. I think if they're willing to do the extra step to get trained, I wouldn't have a problem with the two of them.
What about placing Kyle Robinson? I know he's gonna go on the board, and being that he teaches it, I mean, would that co-chair kind of drive, kind of have more information to share with the information that he has on what we teach currently or what changes?
Yeah, that could potentially be the case, like I said, because he was not at the organizational meeting, it has not
Mhm.
yet formally been appointed, I didn't wanna, necessarily throw him in the mix, but he is an option. Also keep in mind that Amanda Galitas, district school nurse, is the sex ed supervisor, and she can be another resource to look for answers or track down materials. Amanda, talking with her, preferred to have two other people she could collaborate with to kind of lead the committee. And so she was not a no either, but would prefer to have two other co-chairs that she could assist with moving them forward.
Mhm.
So Kyle could be an option, but again, I couldn't necessarily
Mm.
recommend him because he hasn't officially been appointed at this point.
I would feel comfortable with the two that I signed up for. You said that was Katie Rikers and Angela.
Megan and Kate
Megan.
were the two that signed up for the training.
Concur.
I like the idea of having external leadership instead of people who also represent the school. Just because it gives a different.
There's something to be said for that, in that it's really supposed to be this community
Yeah.
forum, and we want those advisors there, but,
I mean, the chairs, I mean, they don't have any power to not bring something or not talk about something, right? It's just really just the organizational place of the meetings. I mean, is it set up like our board where, I mean, it is the president's not bringing it to the board, nobody I mean, is that, so it doesn't have that formal kind of structure, does it?
Yeah, my understanding was talking with Christina Holmes, who was also at the organizational meeting, and I think many of you met as the, or at least those in policy met as the consultant through Ian Risa. I think the main function of the co-chairs is to schedule meetings, to organize the agenda, to kind of prioritize areas that they'll move forward on. They can also do some logistical things like organize, like how did they vote? Is it a voice vote? Did they vote by paper ballot? Like those types of managerial things, the co-chairs would also be involved in putting together some of those protocol. But yeah, I don't think it's as formal a process, nor do they have the legal requirements that like the school board would have.
Remember, whatever recommendation you do have, comes to the board, they will vote on that, so.
Mhm. So it was Megan and
Kate.
Amanda. Kate?
Kate,
No, Katie.
Megan Hall, Katie Weingartz, and Angela Griffin.
but Megan and Katie were the two that were getting the training.
Okay.
So it sounds like we're kind of moving towards Katie and Megan. Are we good at it? This is just a discussion tonight.
Yep.
So this will be up for action at our next meeting.
Yeah, and if you'd like any more information in the meantime, please let me know. I can get that to you.
Would it be too much trouble to ask for their applications again? Thank you.
I'm going through them real quick.
I was trying to find it.
Yeah, we don't have to decide anything tonight, it's just to have a discussion, but moving in that direction of narrowing it down.
Okay.
Thank you.
And I'm just glad that people have stepped up to something they want to do
Yeah.
it, which also leads us into the next thing, we still do not have a student representative. So if anybody knows of a student that would like to be a representative, they can still.
Yeah, my daughter was very interested. They said to let them know when we were at that stage.
Oh, we're there.
I was gonna
They're
say,
there.
I think think we're.
Yeah,
definitely
the applications and the news and notes, the high school newsletter, it's been in the last 3 or 4 editions.
Okay.
And you can just link to the app, but because obviously if the child is, or the student is under 18, the parent needs to sign off that they give
Okay.
permission, just given the topics that will be discussed, so.
Great.
Yeah, send those in to myself and I'll get them in front of the board at your next meeting.
All right, so talk with Adam if you have any other questions, but we're good with moving this to the next meeting.
Mhm.
Great. Then it is board policies is next on our discussion item. We'll start with the revision of policies and move to the approval of policies. Any questions about the 4 revised policies that are up for discussion? No questions?
No?
Okay. Then we will move on. Is there any questions about the removal of the 6 policies that are in front of you?
There's 5.
Oh,
5.
yep, I'm sorry, you're right. 5.
Nope, I'm good.
Okay, then we will move those, seeing none, then I will move those to the next meeting. We'll get those questions answered as they come. The next thing is what Dave kind of alluded to in his update is a possibility of a board resolution for the housing that we have in our district. Adam, do you want to shed a little bit more on that, or?
Well, it would really be what the board would like to
Yeah.
see in terms of what that communication looks like. I mean, my one possibility would be a letter that just, it's not a resolution because it has a little more weight to it,
Never.
I think, but a letter that just says, here's what we'd like to see some more focus on or attention on, and here's why. And then I could add those statistics into the letter. We have some other items that we're kind of working on now too that you haven't seen yet that kind of show why this should be an area of focus. And I could draft that then and get that to the board for review, and then you could obviously go through and see what you liked about it or what you'd like to change, and then we just kind of go from there. It would be a document from the board, so it would be your collective names on it. So we want to make sure it was something you felt comfortable with. But if you'd like, I could take the lead on at least putting together that rough draft and getting something in front of you.
That would be great.
Yeah, and I'll just add a little bit onto that. When we had our policy meeting, we did ask the question, would it help if, because we know Adam's been going to these meetings, going to council meetings, going to township meetings, and so they hear a lot from Adam. We were questioning whether the board could do something more, and they were not opposed to hearing from us. So we thought that maybe this would be the avenue that we pursue first and see what kind of feedback we get.
We also discussed like current law and what we have available to, like, one of the questions I asked Adam was, what if we decided to pass a law in Michigan right now that didn't allow school of choice? And what if we lost the 22% of students right now that are school of choice? I mean, it would just be detrimental to our structure that we have built here with kind of the agreement, underscore agreement that the community leaders would also help us in creating an environment to have a world-class school. And we feel maybe they haven't pulled up their end of the bargain, allowing housing to be built in our area. That still restricts us to, we rely a lot on that school of choice to take us over the edge every time we have one of these national surveys that we come to the top and, people choose us for our educational standards. We might not be able to have that if a law passed, and, that happens all the time where something seems good on paper and then it's detrimental to schools like ours if we lose something like that. So I would like that to, I would like to have something in the letter that just says, in the consequence of not really aggressively looking at your current policies, it's the livelihood of the school system that needs to have the people that live and go to school here work, be in our community.
And that 22% of school choice or non-residential
it's gonna go up.
Yeah, it's anticipated that it will go up that percentage, so that goes to even more of an urgency. And we have students, I'm not saying anything that you don't already know, but we have students that are driving 45 minutes one way to get to school even, so. This has been a problem for quite some time with housing, and so this is something that the board could do if we so choose to go this route.
That's good first step.
And our Chris, do you have anything?
No, I'm fine.
Yeah, I'd like to hear more about how that board could help.
All right, so we could request Adam to start reading that document.
I'm fine.
And then he'll read it to us and review. Do you think you'll have that, Chris?
Yes.
Everyone's okay with that?
That's perfect, thank you.
Sounds great.
All right. Next thing is closed session for,
Bond.
I'm sorry, I just crossed that off. Me too. The bond proposal. Such an important thing that so this is recommendations. We're going to hear tonight just for an architectural and construction management service that Adam and Sarah have been working so hard on. And Brandon, yes, thank you. Don't want to forget Brandon. So this is the first step of many steps to come, hearing about the bond.
Good evening again. So I have the opportunity this evening to propose our recommendations for pursuing contracts with an architectural firm and a construction management firm. As Sarah noted, I do want to thank Sarah Tynan and Brandon Weingartz for the many, many hours of research and collaboration they put into the presentation this evening. This is about a year, depending on how you look at it, year and a half of work that's gone into getting us to this point. I also want to thank Betsy Ruckert, who's listened to, whether she wanted to or not, a lot of my open thinking as we've moved through this process, and had a lot of very important insights and recommendations as well as we went through this process. And I guess I'm going to need you to, it worked in rehearsal. All right, thank you. So the agenda for this evening is, I guess, self-explanatory. There will be some pictorial representations that I think will help illustrate part of the rationale for why this is an urgent, not urgent, but a matter that requires some timely attention for a number of reasons. So starting off on the agenda slide, just a reminder that one of the areas that the potential bond would focus on would be the parts of our district, the buildings that go back to 1950, and see here's the cornerstone block outside of one of the wings of Explorer Elementary School. So if we go to the next slide, please. So the ask as part of this presentation is simply to allow myself and our central office staff to pursue contracts with these two firms that I'll speak to later on in the presentation. Once those contracts have been negotiated, those will come back in front of the board for review and approval. So I want to be clear that this evening there's no money being spent, there's no timelines being put together, none of those intricacies are part of the presentation. You're giving a green light to us to further the process by establishing these partnerships via these contracts that, again, you would have the opportunity to review in the future. There's also the matter of a potential timeline for when a bond or bond extension would happen. There is a finance and facilities meeting scheduled for later this month, and that timeline will be part of that discussion. So we might very well see kind of convergence of these contracts being established, again, pending your approval that it's okay to move forward and pursue those, and recommendations from that committee coming together and kind of creating the broader outline of what this might end up looking like. In this picture, we have what pretty much every family in our district has experienced at one time or another. This is the car loop outside of Discovery Elementary. This is a city land that the district cannot purchase due to a DNR grant that prohibits the city from selling it to us. And so we've had this ongoing unpaved drop-off route that dead ends into the river, and for obvious safety and logistical reasons is not the best way that we could potentially go about dropping elementary students off and picking them up from school. You can go to the next slide. So general bond goals. Any potential bond extension would start with an audit of our existing facilities, and that's where, again, having a contract and partners that would be able to move us forward with this initiative comes into play. They would go back through all our existing facilities, check everything out, and then come back with any recommendations or priorities that we are not already aware of that might need to be a focus of the potential funding for that. However, we have a pretty good idea of where the priorities should lie, pending some current unknown. So the first priority would be to solve the arrival and dismissal situation at our elementary campus. As you know, that involves 3 schools and the elementary and the administrative building. So that's over 1,000 students and at least 100 staff on every given day that move through those doors and onto the campus. Explorer Elementary is a very dated building. I'll show you an example of what that looks like later on, but in summary, you have very small classrooms that are very antiquated, where you're trying to put 25 to 28 large 4th and 5th graders into, and it really inhibits some of the creative teaching, flexible seating, and other types of advanced pedagogy that we're trying to implement throughout the district just due to space constraints within that building. HVAC and HVAC automation continues to be a priority. As you might recall, 2 years ago we had an investment grade review of our HVAC infrastructure. That was very positive in terms of what we had, but there were recommendations that could be addressed over the next several years. Many of those we have done, but there are still some that need to be accomplished, and as you well know, any work on HVAC is expensive. Lower in the list, the tennis court facility. This is just there because the only opportunity that any school district would have to do a large-scale renovation of a facility of this kind would be through a bond or a bond extension. That's not something that's financially possible using our general operating dollars. And we have amazing athletic facilities throughout the district, with one exception, and that is our tennis court facility that we continue to put money into every year to try to keep it going, but it's just a matter of time before it's beyond repair just due to the way it was built and where it was built. And so this would be an opportunity to solve that once and for all. And then just a facelift for the rest of the district, upgrading learning spaces, furniture, carpet, lockers. The middle school was kind of the textbook case for lockers that are in disrepair for a number of reasons. Locker room and restroom facilities, and then equipment and resources for students throughout the district. The picture on this slide is the offset intersection at Riverside and Highland, where we generally have one crossing guard trying to cross students across 2 intersections that no one person can manage on their own. This is and has been a major safety concern of mine, and something that we have the opportunity to solve once and for all through this potential project. So if we go to the next slide, there's just a series of overlays. This is a picture of the elementary campus, and Dave, if you wouldn't mind, just tap and enter a couple times. You can see some of the potential spaces that might be a part of an overhaul of this particular campus, transitioning again Explorer Elementary into a modern and functional learning environment, and solving again that arrival and dismissal safety issue that we've had at the elementary campus for many, many years. We can go to the next slide. So this is a bit of a history of what's been done so far. This project, or the work on this recommendation, started in February of 2022 with a preliminary bond planning and capacity meeting with both Troon, which is our law firm, and PFM. Sarah Tynan and I were part of that initial conversation. Fast forwarding to 2023, we started to have some bond extension or bond planning meetings with our law firm, moved that through the facilities committee, kept the board informed throughout the summer. Brandon Weingartz in particular, I want to give a lot of credit to for spending April through June researching a bond delivery model. There's two different types of delivery models that we were considering, and through his hard work, we were able to arrive with the model that we would like to implement if the board chooses to move forward on this. Following that, with the board's permission, we established a request for proposals process over the summer, culminating in August and September with a series of meetings and then interviews with the firms that responded and bid on the potential project. So starting with the architectural services bids, and this is true for both construction management and architecture, we did a lot of homework up front to identify firms that we felt would be great partners as part of this initiative. We really honed in on firms that had a great reputation for building solid and positive relationships, and a lot of that work was reaching out to other superintendents and other districts throughout the area that have had an opportunity to partner with these firms and gave them strong positive recommendations. So we kind of did a pre-screener, so to speak, in terms of the request for proposals, and then targeted firms that we felt met the criteria we were looking at. Again, prioritizing relationships, communication, and community outreach and partnership. So we ended up with these 4 firms that bid on architectural services. And if you move to the next slide, you'll see our recommendation is that the board give us permission to pursue a contract with French Associates. And before I get to the rationale for that, you'll see an example of a 5th grade classroom at Explore Elementary. These are small, dark, pizza slice shaped classrooms. Back in 2003, my first job in the district was teaching 5th grade in the classroom that is now the art lab. Of course, that's now double the space now, 2 pizza slices. And one of the initial challenges that any educator would find when you're walking in there is, how do I configure a room with 28 big 5th graders in there that's shaped in a very unusual way. Very cramped quarters. It's hard for those kids to move around, and if you're looking at doing some creative pedagogy such as centers, rapid and quick regrouping to promote discussion, small group work, it is just not conducive to a modern 21st century learning environment, which most of our other classrooms throughout the district are set up for that type of instruction. So if you go to the next slide, the recommendation for French, like I said, one of the things that we prioritized was relationships. We were extremely impressed with the proposals from the other firms, their professionalism, and their follow-up to questions that we had. So all great firms with great professionals on their staff. However, we have worked with French over the past 6 years. They have designed our secured entrances that have been installed throughout the district. The architect who would be working on this project is also working with Brandon Weingartz on the high school egress windows. That will get done if the windows ever get here. And so he's already established a positive relationship with them. For those that have been on the board for some time, you might recall back when we were doing the high school entrance, there was a bit of a hiccup with funding for that, and some of the estimates that came in higher than what we had thought they would be. And one of the things that impressed us with French at that time was that from the president on down, they took those concerns seriously and looked for ways to make that situation right. And when you go into any major potential construction project, things are going to go wrong. It's just what happens. I mean, think about any work that you might have done on your house, right? It just, things never go the way you think they're going to go, or the timeline's extended, or there's a problem. And one of the things that we really appreciate with French is that we know from experience that when there is one of those inevitable problems, they're going to step up and make it right. and make sure that things get done the right way. All right, we can move on then. Construction management bids. Again, we pre-screened construction management firms to make sure that the folks we reached out to with the RFP were quality firms that have a strong positive relationship, that have worked with other districts in our area, and whose superintendents or other members of their staff spoke highly of. As I believe our law firm said when they saw who had bid on the project and who we were interviewing, of like maybe the 5 or 6 most reputable firms, we have 4 of them here. And so they, right from the get-go, we were in great shape with the folks who bid on the project. So if we go to the next slide, this was a very difficult decision, again, because of how the quality of the people that we had an opportunity to meet and the quality of their proposals. However, we did feel that Chrisman was a step above in some respects, and I'll outline those in the next slide. But before I do, again, to highlight some of the things that I see on a daily basis that cause me worry, and there's just no solution to these without building our way out of it. You can see here how we have students moving from the Walker Welcome Station to their designated locations outside of the elementary campus before school. You can see the proximity of the sidewalk to the car/bus loop. This is something that is very closely choreographed in the mornings, having a parent drop off out of there, then moving the students from the Walker Station to their designated locations outside of the school or to breakfast, and then having the buses come in after the students are past that sidewalk. You can see the maintenance department from the photo does a great job of painting that yellow strip and keeping that updated, and of course our staff also provide constant reminders from a safety perspective. However, this situation is the way it is only because of the layout of the building as it's currently configured. There's no reason it needs to continue to stay this way, just like the offset intersection, the drop-off loop for parents, the car loop. All this can be fixed and have a much more efficient, timely, and most importantly, safe way of getting students to and from school each day. So if you go to the next slide, the rationale for Chrisman. They're a local company, locally headquartered company, but also has a national reach, connections throughout the country in terms of power to get quality bids, leverage and recruit subcontractors to work under their leadership. And I think most importantly, every single person I talked to, every single person, whether it was superintendent, law firm, or other folks that have worked with them, had nothing but rave reviews. The project lead for our project is also currently the project lead at Okemos. He's a West Point grad, and just really some really great things. We were just impressed by all of their team in a number of ways. One thing that stood out with Chrisman that we didn't see with the other firms, not that this was necessarily the decision-making point, but something I noticed was this would be a project at a school, and schools have students. And Chrisman made a point to have outreach to students. In fact, in their presentation, they showed the person who would be our project lead reading books with students in classrooms, talking about jobs and construction and all the different things that kids can do, making sure they're aware of what's taking place, and really an educational outreach and bringing the students into some of the things that they would be seeing as some of these changes took place. So from an educator's lens, that was something that I connected with instantly, and they have demonstrated record of incorporating into their work. So if we go to the final slide, this should be, I think if you hit the button one more time for questions and discussion, just a reminder of where this building started with the plaque that's still up from the 1950 construction. Structure has definitely served us well for a long time, but as we move forward with delivering relevant instruction to our students that replicates a 21st century learning model and 21st century careers that they'll be moving into, combined with the very apparent logistical issues and most pressing to me, the safety issues that we have at the campus. It is time to do something different, and we have the opportunity in front of us to make those changes. So with that, I will turn it over to the board for any questions that I can entertain.
I have no questions. It's been a long time coming, so I'm interested to see what they come up with,
Yeah.
and I think it's past timing.
Agreed.
Alright, so I take it, this board feels comfortable moving forward with that determination. Or, so we will move that to action at the next meeting.
Yes.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you, Adam.
Thanks, Adam.
It's very exciting. Now, the next thing on our agenda is a closed session to discuss negotiations. Is there a motion?
Motion to go into closed session?
Second?
Motion by Julie, second by Chris. Is there any discussion? Okay, this is a roll call vote. So Amanda, I will ask you to use the roll call.
Amanda, yes? Chris?
Yes.
Dave?
Yes.
Julie?
Yes.
And Sarah?
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
All right, thank you. We'll move into a separate room for that.
Motion to come out of closed session.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion by Chris, second by Dave. Is there any discussion? Okay, this is a roll call vote. Amanda, please lead us through roll call.
Amanda? Yes. Chris?
Yes.
Dave?
Yes.
Julie?
Yes.
And Sarah?
Yes.
Motion to come out of closed session passes.
Thank you all very much. So then we're on to action items. I have a motion for routine items for the consent calendar approval of minutes for the September 18th meeting.
Make a motion that the Williamston Board of Education approve the minutes of the regular meeting held on September 18th, 2023 as presented.
Second.
Motion by Chris, second by Dave. Is there any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We do not have any more roll call item votes. We do have several separate action items. I get a motion to approve overnight and out-of-state field trips.
Move that the Williamston Board of Education approve the overnight and out-of-state field trips as presented.
Second?
Motion by Dave, second by Chris. Is there any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Can I get a motion for board policies to revise or remove?
Make a motion that the Williamston Board of Education revise the following policies as presented: 1600 board records, 9500 relations with other school districts, 9570 relations with law enforcement investigating authorities, 9670 relations with federal government authorities, 9820 intermediate district relations, 9840 the student teach, oh, sorry, that other one was 9820, 9840 student teaching and internships, 9900 education research agencies, and 9920 school accreditation. We also are removing the following policies: 9450 complaints and 9830 colleges and universities.
Second.
Motion by Julie, second by Dave. Is there any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, everyone. Those are all our items, action items. Review of board goals. We do not have any correspondence. And this comes to the second portion of our meeting for citizen comments. Do I have any citizens that would like to address the board? This can be on any topic. It does not need to be agenda related. Seeing no citizens that would like to address the board. Board member reports and requests. Do we have any? I have one. There is a citizen, city/township meeting. It's a joint meeting on the 18th of October. If anybody would like to attend, that is a Wednesday. Did you by chance find a time of that meeting?
7, but if you're interested, I can confirm. Pretty sure it's 7.
Is there anybody that would like to attend that meeting or is able to attend that meeting?
Check it.
I'll have to look.
If not, I believe.
It's 7 at the Township Hall.
Township Hall.
Williamston.
Great. Nancy and I are available, so we can attend. If
What
nobody
day
else-
was that again?
It's the 18th of October. Next Wednesday.
You guys can.
If you do wish to attend, you can get a hold of myself, Nancy, or Adam to set that up.
Am I, because I actually came without my phone and I have no idea what my schedule is.
Okay, no worries, as long as we don't have more than 3 board members, because 4
Right.
board members or more make a quorum, so that we're not violating Open Meetings Act. So, just coordinate with one of 3 of us.
Okay.
All right. Any other board member reports or requests? All right, seeing none, I will take a motion for adjournment.
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
Motion by Chris, second by Dave. Is there any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.